I'm not the first moron to start an upfitting company and kind of fiddle my way through it. I can get in behind some of the other people and be like, hey, how did you do this?
Hey guys, it's Sam from the 2448, and on today's show we have Travis Matthews from Light the Way NC. They do lighting installs and all sorts of really cool upfits on patrol cars and law enforcement vehicles, fire truck vehicles, all sorts of stuff in North Carolina. Travis is also a firefighter and is going to tell us his story today. So welcome to the show, Travis. Give me your, kick this off with like your background. What's your company name? Where you from? That sort of thing.
So we're based out of Moore County. Our company's Light the Way LED. We do emergency vehicles. Emergency vehicle lighting is kind of what we do. We do a little bit of anything 12 volts, so we're kind of right in the same line of what you're doing here. We sell a bunch of fire tech stuff.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we've been doing it for 6 years, 7 years, somewhere in there.
That's cool.
And
you're a fireman too, right?
Yep, fireman too, full-time fireman. I work for the city of Charlotte on Engine 12, Road Warriors. Woo! Also, I'm a captain there. I'm also a captain at Cypress Point Fire and Rescue in Moore County on the water rescue team in Moore County. So busy.
That's cool. So y'all do lighting installations.
Yes.
You do upfits,
the whole nine.
the whole whatever on just small vehicles. You guys do fire trucks, that sort of thing.
The big trucks, we do more of the refurb stuff. We don't do the full bodies. We're not to that far yet.
Yeah.
I think that's. I don't know if I tell this out loud, my wife sees this, she'll lose her mind. But it's way down the road maybe, but it's not in the 5-year plan to be there.
Yeah.
We're still expanding. I've moved we sold our house, which had our garage and shop there, and I've moved to a much smaller space, and now I can only fit one car in.
Oh, interesting.
But we're looking to expand again to get back into the 2 and 3 cars at a time.
That's awesome. How did it all start? So you're a fireman. Were you a fireman before you started the business, or did you start the business and then became a fireman?
Yeah, I was a fireman before the business. I've been doing upfitting forever, just doing it, not as being the fireman that does upfitting. Or I know a guy. That was me. So, and as things progress, it finally we can make $1 out of this. We might be able to make something. And it started out, it's funny enough, it started with the off-road bars, just like
nice,
cheap Chinese whatever spotlights we could throw on that everybody hates riding up down the road. That was us. That's what we did. So, and I spun it into, I'm putting blinky lights in fire trucks all the time, and I'm the guy of, why's this relay messed up, or what's wrong with this? And so we turned it into that and started the company, and we've gone from there to now we're doing probably 30 cars a year.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah.
So
why did you get into, was your family business people or was your family firefighters? I feel like these two things often go together, but how did you get kind of...
No, it's funny. So I'm the first generation fireman. I'm the first one. I remember at 6 years old, I went to Cameron Fire Station in downtown Cameron. The building's still there. The town owns it, but I can remember walking in that door and looking at 222 and 228 going, I'm going to ride those one day.
No way.
And my mom was like, you're never going to do that. And you got to get out of high school before you can do it, because I was a full-time student in baseball and band, all those things. So went from there and finally joined in 2006.
The little fire station?
The little fire station.
Was it in Cameron?
Yep. Joined the Cameron Fire Department in 2006. They're in their new building, new-ish. New to me. It's not the little tiny one it was, but joined in 2006 and been there ever since. And they merged with VAS and VAS Rescue in 2010, which made Cypress Point.
Oh, interesting.
So now it's a 3-station. There's the Cameron Station, VAS, Woodlake. We're building our 4th out on Youngs Road right now, actually.
That's cool.
So I got to put radios in a new fire station.
So did you always, when you were 6 years old, you saw these fire trucks, I want to do this?
Oh, yeah, I want to do this. I want to be a fireman. So
what was driving that? What did you think was
don't
so
know.
cool about
Out
it?
of nowhere, just one of those, I thought this was the coolest thing since sliced bread. And
that's awesome.
That passion has been there from there to going to school. I went to school for fire science. Went to UNC Charlotte for fire science, and that's how I got on at Charlotte. One of the places got me pointed that direction.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not at like a Raleigh or a Cary or somewhere near me. And because I was going to school at UNC Charlotte. And
interesting.
I was like, I'm right down the street, and I joined a little fire department up there while I was there. It's closed now. It's Newell Volunteer Fire Department. It's closed at this point. It closed in 2010, 2011.
Why does the fire department close?
The city took over.
Oh, yeah.
So if the fire station caught on fire,
Was the city
the
gonna have
fire
to-
department didn't go to it. It's weird.
That's
so
awesome.
there was a church fire down the street, and we heard it go out. We're like, wait a minute. You step outside, and you're like, oh, it is burning.
Yeah.
So we're not dispatched to it. We had to add ourselves to it.
No way.
And you had to go 5 miles down the road to get to our first area.
Oh, that's weird.
So it's same way it is now. There's a little fire department called Robinson. If the fire station catches on fire, they don't go.
No way.
So
that's just because the city's been
the
growing
city's
so much.
growing so much, and it's taken over the areas. Robinson may still go to theirs, but it's one of those. The city's growing. Anything that's not a municipality is being taken over by the city. So it's, I mean, heck, Charlotte's got 43 fire stations now.
Yeah.
And looking to build 44 and 45. So,
Yeah.
So they're building and growing, and it's just how I ended up in Charlotte, and I don't know where the passion came from. It did, and the upfitting side, I mean, I was 12 volts. You 16 years old, and you're adding speakers in your car and subwoofers and all this stuff, and that was me. And it was, I mean, a buddy of mine did it till I had this little Ford Ranger with two 12s in the back, and you can't hear a thing. So it's one of those, it's grown from a thought to realization, and
Yeah.
kind of got upset at a point inside the little volunteer fire department. Politics are a thing. So
Politics. I like that word.
politics are a thing, and got mad of, I don't have to do this every day. I'm to kill myself for something that's not taking me anywhere. Let's try something else for a while. I never left there. I just didn't work there as much, and then Light the Way is just friggin' taking off, and
That's awesome.
we're getting calls every day. So
What were the early days of Light the Way like?
slow.
Who was your first customer? Do you remember?
A buddy of mine, Andrew Sykes, he sold, actually, I just texted him a little while ago. He said he saw my little Instagram thing coming up here. And
Oh, nice.
he said, where are you at? I took a picture of the truck out front. He's like, oh, I know where that is.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, he was our first customer. He literally bought 2 little pod lights about 6 inches long to
That's
put on his
awesome.
tractor. So, yeah, that was our first sale. They're still on there today.
That's awesome.
He sent me something a few weeks ago. It's like, they still work. And I was like, man, it's been 6 years. I'd have thought they'd have died years ago.
That's
but
funny.
that was part of the deal. I'm selling cheap whatever in the beginning. And
How'd you get kicked off? Because I remember when I started, in the early days of HiViz, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but our businesses were not very different back in the day. Now, we make the lights today, but back in the day, I can't remember who I used to sell for. I would buy, I think, sound off from Vance Fitzsimmons at some West Virginia Signal. It was like a lighting distributor. And I'd call and say, hey, man, can I get a price on a hideaway light? And I'd install it for a guy and send him down the road. But how did you begin to establish relationships with the companies that made the products?
So, reached out at first just to see who would kind of, hey, we're starting up. Phoenix was our first one.
Oh, interesting.
And that was in their time of they would take anybody. Like,
Oh, interesting.
You can put lights on cars? Here you go. But you had a buy-in, just like everybody else does. Pretty much every company out there has some
So it's
type
a
of
minimum
buy-in.
stocking or something
you
like
buy
that?
$500, and I was like, well, I can spend $500. Years ago, I can spend $500 putting lights on my truck.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll up at my car and start my business.
Yeah. So that was kind of the deal. That's how we started there, and then it's progressed from that to just calling and getting the name out there, and that's somebody saying, hey, I want to put this on a vehicle, or have you thought about going with this company? Like our body lighting right now for the bigger trucks is done by Technic.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Out of Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah.
So before you started making yours. Yeah. It's one of those of, they were a great company. They got a lifetime warranty, and I can put them on a truck, and I don't have to worry about them forever.
Sure.
And I was like, well, that's perfect because it's just me. I don't
Yeah.
want a thing to die in 2 years. Stuff I did 2 years ago going to show back up of dying. Like, why am I doing this again for free?
Yeah.
So it's one of those of, that's where that came from. Like I reached out to them, and they're like, yeah, sure.
Would you go find a customer first and say, hey, what do you want me to do to your vehicle? And they'd tell you, I want to put scene lights, warning lights, siren, whatever. Or would you go and say, hey, I got access to all this stuff. Do you guys want it?
Kind of each way. I've had people reach out, but like, this is what we want. Can you do that? Or we want it done this way. I've had ones like, we want it to be, I want a Wheeling Liberty put on top of my truck. But like, okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, find
and
a
I
way.
start
call
finding
someone.
a way to get on the Googles and figure out somebody to sell me local, not local. Somebody will sell me a light bar, I promise you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
and that's how we started it. Is it's done that, and now I've got accounts with all kinds of people.
That's cool. What's the harder part? Is getting the product the harder part, or is actually doing the installation and making it clean? That sort of stuff harder.
The installation is what becomes the harder piece. I mean, getting the product, if you order in from some companies, it'll take 14, 16, 18 weeks to get something. Wow. Like, it's ridiculous. And some stuff, I can order an aftershock. I ordered it 2 weeks ago. It's sitting at my door.
Interesting.
So, I mean, I've got some companies that are 2 weeks. I got some companies that are a few days.
How'd you learn how to put that stuff on? I feel like that's
Trial and
not an easy thing to pick up. Yeah. Walk me through that.
So, a lot of trial and error along with my vehicles. One of the guys that I was on a volunteer fire department with, we joked about it after the company started of, remember when we just put stuff together and it's hooked right to the battery. There's no fuses. There's no nothing. You just hit the brake wrong and sparks come out from under the dash. Like, it started from those ugly, ugly beginnings.
Yeah.
And that's years ago. I mean, that's 2006. I mean, that's just put it together and hope for the best. But now it's gone. I've got some of the, in my mind, some of the best upfitters in the world. I got 2 or 3 guys working with me.
That's cool.
And we've gone from you pulling a console apart and it looks like a bird's nest to I got pictures of consoles. It's just, all the wires run down one side. It's just as clean as they can be.
Yeah.
Because in 5 years, I don't remember how I put that together. I mean, I've got pictures of it, but space is only space. I've only got space for so much.
So is each vehicle, like, especially in fire, like, is everyone a custom built unique product, or are you kind of doing like, all right, I'm going to do 10 of these things the same way, or what's your layout process?
So some of them, yes, is very one-off spec. Prime example, Wadesboro. I got Wadesboro's, I guess, utility in there now. That's the one we're doing. He brought to me, this is what I want. I want 6 lights in the grill, 4 lights under each side. I want bar lights, a visor light in the front. I want these traffic advisors down each side. So, okay, we can do that. Well, he come up with the spec, and I've got to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a sound-off blueprint system in it, and now it's plugged into the car and all that stuff of being able to figure out how to make that, all the pieces jive and talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it's been a learning curve. Going to class and sitting in to learn blueprint, going to school, going to send my upfitters to school because I can just have mine and let them do their thing. But if they can sit in class and learn the same thing I did, then they know they're that much better.
Yeah. Tell me about the early days in your business. Or maybe not the earliest days, but like when you think about those first couple cars.
They were rough.
Well, yeah. What were you learning or what, like, how did that all come about?
So the first build I ever had was Cypress Points. Cypress Point Squad 21. It's a Dodge Ram 2016, I think.
Yeah.
It's still in service today. I saw it this morning as I was leaving out. They were going on a call. So it's one of those, hey, I built that. Over-engineering everything. Like the main wire going in is way too big. Like I'm just figuring it out and going on, like how many amps does this pull and how much wire do I need to do this? And my outlook that's been that way since we started is I'm not the first moron to take this thing apart, and some other person took it apart and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So to get grills off and bumpers off and this, that, and the other is I'm just
kind of gritty, get through it.
I'm a dumb kid from Moore County, so I'll figure it out. But somebody else done it. In the early days, it was very, very rough trying to find ignition signal, falling back on Facebook and all these other forums of how did you do this or how did they do this, or calling on other upfitters or some in the state, some out of the state. I'd call up like, man, you built one of these. How does this work?
Yeah, if you call someone out of state, they're not competing with you. I'm sure they'll tell you. Sure.
Yeah, I can call my guy in Texas, Ultimate Lighting Solutions. He called him up like, hey, man, how does this work?
Yeah.
Or I got one actually in the state. He works at Performance Dodge. Thomas Hall, he's an upfitter.
Oh, nice.
He works for Fayetteville Fire Department. It's one of those I can call him up and be like, hey, man, how do you do this?
Yeah.
We were buddies before I knew that he was an upfitter.
Yeah.
After we got started, he called me. He's like, I didn't know you were doing this.
That's interesting. I feel like there's this professional group of people that do this that are kind of a unique grouping, you know? Like these people work somewhere.
Yeah.
How do you think the fire service has helped you, or how is it tied to your business? What's been the connection there?
we've gained a lot of customers from it, of being able to talk to firefighters and just be able to walk in and be like, knowing the lingo.
Yeah.
Being able to say, well, I work here. It's not just some random dude walking in the fire station going, I want to sell you red lights.
Yeah.
It's, hey, I know what this rig does. I know what this truck's going to do. I know what its life's going to be in this fire station. And here's what I can give you. And here is the warranties with it and my warranty and so on and so forth. Learn how to talk to people has helped a lot. I mean, because the bell's going to hit and you're going to see somebody you've never seen before and you're never going to see again probably.
Yeah.
And being able to talk to that person on a one-on-one basis and be able to carry on a conversation, even if what hurts.
Yeah.
You're talking patient-wise. Like, you'll see these people you're going to have to just
you'll have to talk to them. And there's no other way to be like, I don't want to talk to you. You've got to talk to this person. So, and that helped out a lot of coming out of the shell of learning how to talk to people, and then learning the lingo of the fire department, of messing with people with hose stretchers and this, that, and the other, of learning all that and the backside. And then that helps go into the upfitting side of, I can just call the fire chief and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Being straight up with people.
Yeah.
We were part of that Moore County power outage thing for days.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that. What happened? I saw the story on the news, but I never knew actually what went on.
Some yahoo, or yahoos, I don't know yet, is they went and shot up these power stations, like 3 or 4 of them. Maybe 2 or 3 of them, I don't know. But they shot up these little power stations, not little, and they knocked out power to 40,000 people in Moore County.
Holy cow.
On a Saturday at 8 o'clock. Like, pew, turn the lights out. And they don't just have these, I guess they're not generators, but whatever they are, they don't just have these things laying there.
Yeah.
They've got to go find them. I mean, there's not just,
they got to make them or get them or
pick
whatever.
a light off the shelf and put it back, or I can flip a breaker. It's one of those of, they shot these things and they had to truck them in.
Holy cow.
It ain't like you've got a Google search of where to find this thing. Lowe's don't have it on the shelf. So they had to truck these things in. There was people out for days.
Interesting.
4 or 5 days. So
Did that impact y'all's fire service stuff and your business stuff? And what was that?
The business side, the fire service, other than Moore County, everything else is fine. You could literally drive across the line into Sanford and Lee County. And it's like nothing was wrong.
Interesting.
So, like, the world in Moore County stopped for 4 or 5 days, and everywhere else just kept right on going. So the business had to shut down for 4 days. I was in the middle of a 4-day of, I'm going to work on trucks this whole time.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting at home in the dark with my dog going, this is terrible, because there's nothing else to do. It's either do that or go to the fire station. And, I mean, fire station's got heat and a warm shower and food. And so, I mean, it was great to be part of that community, to be able to help. Community rallied around each other. It was awesome to see them bring food trucks by the fire stations and this, that, and the other.
Oh, that's cool.
To be able to give people somewhere to go. It's actually kind of awesome to see. It's one thing if it's a hurricane, you can kind of brace for that.
Yeah.
Saturday night, 8 o'clock, somebody turns the lights off and they don't come on till Thursday. That's different.
Yeah, it's different than like knowing it's coming, right?
I mean, it's one thing if a hurricane's coming down the road and you're like, well, it's in Florida and it'll be here in 48 hours. I'm going to go get some water and some milk and bread like everybody else buys for the milk sandwiches.
Yeah.
You can't just go buy that stuff. Like, we lost everything in our fridge. Like, it's gone.
That's crazy.
Some people lost a lot worse.
Yeah.
The saving grace we can have is it happened when it did and not now or in February when it's 20 degrees outside.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
The loss of life would have been catastrophic.
Interesting, yeah.
Because people just don't know how to turn the switch and be able to go in survival mode, and some people can't. If you're old and whatever, there's no one around to call. The phones don't work now, so if the phone doesn't work, you can't call 911 for no one to come help you.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So it's one of those. If we saw that of just kind of perusing around, seeing the area, see if there's anything we can help with. We didn't really get that much busier than normal, but some stations did. Southern Pines have run their tail off. They just wreck after wreck after wreck because now none of the stoplights work in the city, and people can't drive when there's no stoplight.
That's wild.
Everybody acts like it's a green light.
Just goes right through.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work well.
I can't imagine. I feel like that's just got to be such a big incident that you wouldn't even know how to begin to handle it, because you don't train for power outages, but when they're that big and that impactful,
right? Immediately. I mean, it's one of those that we've done snowstorms, but you're watching it come across the country, and you know it's coming. You know it's coming. You can brace. You can be like, all right, we're going to fuel all the saws, and we know that we're going to have trees down and ice down, and we can figure out staffing before. But when they flip the switch at 8 o'clock, you're like, I have to figure out staffing in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and
that's
I've got
crazy.
4 people on a fire truck, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because we only run 4 at night. I mean, we just don't have the personnel to run 3 stations full of people.
So tell me more about your fire service kind of career, because you spend time in the volunteer fire stations and in the city.
Yes.
How does that work?
So I probably don't give the volunteer fire department the time it needs. I do a lot of stuff not in the fire station. I'm over turnout gear for Cypress Point. We do a lot of turnout gear stuff on the backside. I know we talked about yours earlier.
Yeah.
So my time at Cypress Point is pretty much just running calls, trading on Tuesday night, stuff like that. But then it's doing the other stuff of, hey, my suspenders broke. Well, let me order suspenders from MES because that's where I got to get them from.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of the backside that people don't see.
Yeah.
Did
you always do that, or like how did you come up through the ranks there?
So I actually just tested for captain. God, I've been captain there for 7-8 years now.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, it was one of those. We don't do the, hey, is this your buddy? Do you want to be a captain? It's actually a process. So you do a whole same thing. It's a lot less in depth as like Charlotte is, but you do a process. You do a written test. You did a fire scenario. You did an interview process. And then the fire chief takes all those, and he kind of goes from there of promoting. Charlotte's was the same deal, a lot more in depth, but it's a written test and fire scenarios and questionnaires and a panel interview. When I went through, now the panel interview's gone, but they do a different interview with a camera, and I don't think I could do that.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Now it's a fire problem with a camera staring you in the face, and I don't think I could do a camera staring me in the face going,
like we are here.
But you're in a room with a light on, and the light comes on and go, and you just go, and you're like, I don't know if I could just. There's no one else to conversate with.
Yeah,
and,
interesting.
But yeah, each place was a little different. Went up through the ranks from Cypress Point. Literally just went straight to captain. They don't have like a senior firefighter. It was you're either on probation or you come off, and then I've been a fireman there for, I guess it was about 10 years before I got promoted to captain, and then I've been the captain there for, I guess it's been 8-9 years now. I'm trying to figure out my timelines on the flow.
How long were you in at Cypress?
2006 is when I joined.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I've been there for 12 years now. Longer than that. Got to be longer than that.
Short of 20, that's probably 16
years.
Like yeah, that's a long time.
I'm running my math in my head here.
How did you go? So you started in the volunteer fire service, started promoting up through those ranks, or just learning the ropes. Did you immediately go to the fire school, like to learn to Charlotte to apply and become a career fireman, or how did you go from like, I'm a kid, I'm a high schooler, now I'm going to jump into the fire service, and that's going to be my first career?
So I was the kid, went to high school, jumped into the volunteer fire department, and I was going to school at St. Hills Community College for architectural engineering.
Oh, really?
So I had done CAD my entire high school career, and I did a 2-year degree for architectural engineering.
Oh, wow.
And then in the middle of that, I met my girlfriend, then wife now. Actually, we'd gone to high school together. We just reconnected in college.
That's awesome.
And we reconnected in college, and she was going to UNC Charlotte. And I was doing the fireman thing there in Cameron, and I was like,
and in architecture school at the same time.
In architecture school at the same time. And I was like, so let me try the fire science. I went up there with the college itself. Actually went up to go look at the architectural engineering side at UNC Charlotte. There's a school there too. And we got up there, and I sat through their spiel, and I was like, I don't feel like construction manager is what I want to do every day.
Interesting.
Like, I don't want to sit at a desk and
what was it that you didn't like about it?
Just
the desk,
just sitting at a desk every day going.
So admin's not in the fire service career for you.
No.
Yeah.
I hate doing reports, and that's what I do now is reports.
Oh no.
So it's one of those just sit in front of the computer like, this is terrible.
I
just want to be busy around calls. Now I get done with that busy call, I gotta go back and type on the computer. So didn't want to just sit in a computer all day, and went to the fire science, and I talked to the professors there, and they kind of led me in the direction. Here's the classes you got to take. And
what do you tell them? Like, hey, I'm a volunteer somewhere. I'm curious. Kind of, what is this?
I'm kind of curious to send me up here. Just pretty much told them, I said, hey, I'm just up here for with St. Louis Community College. I want to do the architectural engineering stuff, the construction management. and I'm not really interested in that, but this interests me, and I'm here. Can we talk about it?
Might as well hear it.
Yeah, while I'm here, can we talk about it? And they kind of set me the path, and I was like, man, this is great. And then you start looking of every large municipal fire department pays you some type of extra
for having a degree in it. So what is it actually? I don't know anything about that degree. What does it teach you? What's the difference?
A little bit of everything. So they've changed what they were doing when I graduated in 2012 because I had to go back and take 2 classes. I'm one of those 6-year college students.
Perfect. I was a 0-year college student, so you're in good shape.
Well, I had it down. It was down to, you went 2 years at San Luis Community College, and it was supposed to be 2 years after. But I had to do 3 it was 2. It was 2, but I was going to do 1 more semester to get me through.
Yeah.
Just because of classes, how they lined up. And I got hired by Charlotte in September of 2010, and they literally walked in recruit school, and they went, every class you're in, drop them. So it was either you want to be a firefighter or you want to work for the city. And
no way.
And they've changed that since then, but it was one of those of, all right.
So then you had to push it another year.
I had to push it back, and then I had to wait for the classes to come around because there were even years and odd years.
Oh, no.
So I had to, the next year, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because I was in an even year. I had to wait for the next even year to come through to be able to take the classes. So
what was the decision like when you said, all right, yep, I'm done with architecture school?
It was literally, I remember sitting in class in front of a computer on CAD drawing stuff, and I had my pager on my side, just a real volunteer in the world. And the thing goes off, and I'm like, I want no part of this computer. No part of me wants to be here. And I would run from Sand Hills to Cameron to go run calls.
No way.
And it was one of those self-driven classes of you just got to, here's a task. I remember to this day. You had to build an advanced auto parts, but it had to not look like an advanced auto parts from the outside.
Interesting.
And you had to do all the stuff of figuring out how many bricks is it going to take, how much drywall, how much of this, what does this sign cost, how much does this shelves cost?
Yeah.
And then come up with the end of this is how much this place is going to cost to build. And I was like, no part of me wants to do that.
Did he unbuckle that belt and jump off that ship?
I'm good. But every time the pager went off and it sounded half decent, structure fire side the other, I would get up and leave.
Yeah.
And I'd come back the next day. Where'd you go? I had more important things to do.
No
part of me wants to be here.
So how did you apply, or what did you apply? Like that transition must have had like one of those jumping off moments where you said, I'm going to go put my name in the hat. I'm going to work at the city of Charlotte. What was that like?
Yeah, it was literally just sitting in class one day of listening to people, just upperclassmen going through going, well, I've applied my second year, my third year, and I'm not getting hired. And I'm going, so it's not one of those sign up and get in. It ain't one of those. It ain't like Cameron Fire Department just sign up and here you go. Here's some turnout gear. Have a great day. It's one of those of you're going to sign up and you're going to show forth effort and wanting to be here.
What was the process like? I've heard it's like one of those. They'll have 10 million people apply and they give 3 spots. Or something like that.
And when I got hired, I was part of 3,000.
Holy cow.
3,000 people took the written test. They did in 2 different days, 2 Saturdays in February. And it snowed the second one. Thank goodness I was on the first. But like I drove people to their class or to the written test because I had a 4-wheel drive truck and they didn't. And like I drove people there and sat in the parking lot for 2 hours and played on my phone and then drove them back home afterwards. But you sat in take a 3,000 people thing, and then from there it's whoever passes the written test goes to the physical ability test, and there was a CPAT then.
Yeah.
And you run through the CPAT, and that knocked out a ton of people.
Were you like, because you were already in the fire service, you kind of knew what to expect and you were good in that space, or do you have to train for it?
You have to train for the CPAT. It was one of those of you could go in blind, and I could probably pass it today. I have no doubt I could pass it today, but if you went in blind and you had no training and no idea what you were doing, you weren't making it.
Interesting.
Like the first thing I think was you had 10 and a half minutes to get it done. And there's a certain amount of time you had to be on a stair climber with 75 pounds on your shoulder. And like people would get up on that stair climber and they'd take like 5 steps, like, no, I'm good. And they were done.
And they would just drop out.
Drop out. They're done.
No
Over.
way.
It was pass fail.
What was it like for you?
I passed both times. I had to go through the process twice.
Oh, really?
I was one of those kids. So
did you make the written test first, or did you fail the written test and had to
nope,
do that?
made it all the way to a chief's interview.
No way.
All the way to a chief's interview, and that was December or something like that, and I'd heard nothing. So I signed up again for the next year. And funny enough, I got my thanks but no thanks letter the hour after I took the written test.
No way.
Took the written test, and I'm back at home.
So you're lucky you went ahead and signed up,
right?
Huh?
I got a thanks but no thanks letter, and I was like, I seriously thought it was for the one I just took, and I was like, Wait, what? So I'm calling people. I'm like, what in the world is going on? They're like, oh, no, that's for last year.
Process.
And I was like, oh.
What do you think you learned from that first one that you didn't make it through?
The only difference that I can come up with is more schooling and EMT.
Oh, interesting. So that was a big thing.
They wanted you to have EMT because EMT is not the easiest thing in the world to pass.
Yeah. So they wouldn't want to hire you and then not, you couldn't pass it
spend
through.
$100,000 on somebody to get them to the point of walking into recruit school. I mean, that's turnout gear and insurance and pay and all the physicals. You got to pay all the proctors to be at all these little tests you were already at. So you got at least $100,000 in my mind, if not more, tied up in someone to walk into recruit school day one.
Yeah.
And so you'd hate to get them 5 weeks into recruit school and fire them because they failed EMT. Yeah. And like, we spent all this money on this guy, and now he's not able to complete this task, the first task.
What was the chief interview like? I feel like that would be nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
In the city of Charlotte, like with all these big chiefs somewhere.
That was bad. It's one of those, I was nervous. I'm shaking and just, like, you say something, they're in their little pads and writing. And I'm like, what are they writing? Like, what did I say?
They're probably drawing pictures.
They're drawing pictures, whatever. Like, you have no idea what they're writing. But I'm sitting there watching these 5 chiefs and a captain, and I'm going, what are they writing? Like, what did I say wrong? And what's funny is the first time me and another guy, he got hired on the first year, and I didn't. It was his second year. It's funny. We sat beside each other in the written test, and somehow we had the times behind each other at the CPAT. And we had the times behind each other at the background interview. We had the times at each other at the polygraph interview. And then we had the times at each other. Like, I walked into my Chiefs interview, and he's sitting there. I was like, all right, something's going right. Like, this is great. Yeah. He got hired. I didn't.
No, that's funny.
So it's funny. We kind of followed each other. And then I went back through the processes again. And I'm sitting there at the CPAT doing my thing. And there he is running in recruit school. I was like,
that's funny.
So,
what does that teach you as you started your business? Like, you must have been thinking through, like, you wanted that bad enough, you were willing to push that ball hard enough to apply a second time, go through the whole process again.
Failures will happen. That's the big thing with the business. Failures are going to happen. And in the beginning, they're few, and they're not few. They're not far between. They're a lot. And you're going, why is this light not coming on? What am I doing wrong?
Oh, even simple stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, you're like, turn the power on. Everything lights up but that one. And you're like, why? Yeah. Why is that one? And turn it off. Start over. Like, start from the beginning. Go all the way back to the process of figuring out why that one isn't turning on now. Like, it worked a minute ago. What did I do wrong? So, huge learning curves. There was something I said the other day. We did a build for it's my first core build. Wheeling core build.
Yeah.
And lessons were learned, education was gained. Like, it's one of those, like, okay, this was a struggle.
It's a whole different game.
It's a whole different ball game.
Did that checklist process, was that something that you learned throughout your education, your schooling, like being methodical?
Yeah, having to take your time and going step by step, because I think I have ADHD. I'll be over here for a minute, and I'll go over here, and I'll go over here, and I'll be over here. And then I'll notice that when I'm doing stuff is I'll be putting the rear bar in, and I'll get it halfway done, and then I'll be like, I need to take this door off. And I take the door off, and I'm like, what was I doing before? Like, why am I messing with this door? Oh, I need to put a light on the outside. Okay, and I take the mirror off, and I'm like, okay. And then I see something in the drill press. I'm like, hey, that's for the rear bar. I need to mount that. And I walk back there and went, this is where I started. That, like, why was I here? So you're not going to get that out of you. So that little squirrel of all over the place, that's me. And my main outfitter, Bradley, he's the one of, like, start at the grill. And, like, I'll need you to take the grill off, put the lights on it, hook it to the remote node, go. Here's the wires need to go where. And he'll sit there all day and just plug away. The first day I let him loose, like I did actually it's a funeral van. I did a funeral van and wanted 2 of them. I did the first one and said, hey man, this is what it's supposed to look like. I've got to go to shift. You'd work on this one.
Sure.
And it took me all day because I'm slow, methodical, and a squirrel, and I'm all over the place. He calls me like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm done. I was like, what? How are you done? Like, how? No. There's no way you're done. He's like, yeah, I'm done. He sends me a video of it. It's running. It's perfect.
That's awesome.
I come in the next day. Like, come home for shifts. I don't even go inside. It was when the shop was beside the house. Don't even go inside. I walk right to the shop.
I'm going to go pick this thing apart.
Flip this switch on. It's phenomenal. Like, all right. You're it, babe.
Learning delegation that way.
Yep, here you
That's
go.
wild.
So, and now it's like, I think he's there today. My phone just rang. It's probably him of like, hey, man, what do you need me to do? So it's one of those of just learning. He's learned, jumped him in on the deep end. Really and truly teach him everything I know. And if he leaves, guess what? If he owns his own company, I hope he does the best. But don't leave.
Yeah.
Don't leave.
That's awesome.
I kind of need you. You're kind of important. But it's one of those of just being methodical, and going to college shows that if you're able to complete a task, it's not just this class. I've got to complete this class and this class and this one and this one, and that. I think that's what Charlotte was looking for, is because they were big when I got hired of degrees, 2 years, 4 years degrees.
So they wanted to know kind of what you had and that sort of thing.
And EMT, if you can start EMT, there's a bunch of people that start EMT class.
People don't finish it.
I started mine at a community college. There was 45 people that started. There was 10 of us that finished.
That's wild.
And it's one of those of, it was an online EMT class.
That's actually how mine was too. It was like 40 down to 4 tested and passed. It was like, wow.
And I said at the end, there was like 5 or 6 of us, you're right, 5 or 6 of us passed the state test. And that was it. And I remember walking out of the state test at whatever community college I was at, I was like, failed that.
Yeah.
That was the worst test I've ever taken.
What did you learn in the academy that wasn't like firefighting, that wasn't putting out fires? Or academy or in the college, but like what were some of those non-skills you're going to take directly to your hired profession that you were able to pick up from those? I never went to college, so I don't learn nothing in college, but I'm curious, like, was there discipline? Was there, I mean, not just discipline, but like finishing the task, or like, were there any really good mentors there that were like, man, that person really impacted what I do every day?
There's a lot. I mean, so at Charlotte, the training academy runs the academy itself, but the classes, each class is taught by someone else in the fire station. So it could be captain, whoever.
Off an engine, whatever, is going to come in and teach a thing today.
Yeah. Then it was like, prime example, the fire chief taught water supply.
No way. That's awesome.
So you're sitting in class, you're like, fire chief's coming today, building your P's and Q's, and he walks in, you're...
was that when Hannon was still working there? No way. I just love that guy.
So
that was
Hannon
awesome.
would walk in, and he would never forget it. Gallon of water weighs 8.33 pounds. He handed us a book, and he's like, don't follow that book. I'm not going to follow it. You're going to follow me. A gallon of water weighs 8.33 pounds. And if he said that once, he said that a million times. And that day, and that was the longest day I ever had at the academy. It was standard day. It was everywhere, but there's every other day. But it's the fire chief.
Oh yeah,
of the Charlotte Fire Department, standing in front of you, teaching you water supply. Like, a gallon of water weighs 8.33 pounds.
Yeah, you're not going to forget.
It is
that.
Ingrained in my head.
That's cool. What was it that made that so unique? Because I feel like a lot of guys loved the way he used to teach and he used to be in the fire service. What was it that made that so
he
magical?
He was all in. It was, you could call him out to the fire station. And don't get me wrong, Chief Johnson, somewhere now, I can call him. He has a brown bag lunch. He'll come out and he'll talk with you, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Love him, hate him, whatever. But he'll have a brown bag lunch. There he goes, my English. And he'll come out and he'll sit at the fire station. He'll talk with you. He's the fire chief of the city of Charlotte. This is a big deal.
Yeah, that's cool.
But Hannon would come out, and I remember he came out one day, and when this was on engine 34, he came out and sat down, and we had lunch, and we talked about everything. And it went from fire trucks to scrub angles on ladder companies his 67 Chevelle. Like, it went across the board of what we were talking about. And he talked to you, and like you said in the end, I'm human. I put on my pants the same way you do.
Yeah.
He said, I'm just a fire chief.
Yeah.
If you screw up, you got to come after me.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember we sat there, and on the whiteboard at 34, he's drawing scrub angles of ladder companies of stuff. We're an engine company.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a ladder guy. I mean, you can have that mess.
That's
I'm an engine company guy. Been that way my entire career. Other than being assigned there as a relief captain, I rode an engine company. So I'm an engine guy.
What was it like working with all the different? I mean, I feel like when you were the new out of recruit school recruit, or probie, in the fire station day one, like what was your crew makeup like? Because when the fire chief leads that way, especially in the early days, and I actually have not met the new fire chief. I'm sure he's just fantastic too. But when I think about someone that leads the servant mentality leadership, did that exist in your stations and at the smaller battalion station crew level?
Right, it did. So I went to the airport right out of the gate.
Oh, did you really?
Worst place to send somebody right out of recruit school.
Like go sit there and watch planes fly over?
Yeah. So went to Station 41, which is the slowest fire station in the city. The first tour, we were at one call.
Oh,
like
my
the lights
goodness.
kicked on. I went, what is that? What do I do now? Like,
Like go do a standby for a...
yeah, go to a standby for a plane landing on center, and you literally drove at the fire station to the stop line in front of the fire
And
station.
they land, no problem, and you go back
And you
home.
back up. Literally got in the truck, and I'm sitting there with the captain. I was like, what do we do now? And he's like, we just sit here. And I went, seriously?
This is firefighting. I went through all this
I
recruit
went
school
through
to
all
do
this
this.
for this. And the guys, they were great. Knowing that I'm the new guy and, like, know nothing. Like, I don't know freaking anything on this ARF truck.
How did you learn that stuff?
Hands on. Literally got out there because you have nothing else to do. So it was, what else are you going to do? You can play Xbox all day, or I can go out and I can open every door on this ARF truck.
Yeah.
And I can, and then, I mean, there was a recruit class right behind ours, 5 weeks behind us. So they had a guy come out 5 weeks behind me. When he came out, I was checking off to drive at the airport.
That's awesome.
So I was driving trucks on the airfield, doing their whole lingo of
Checking in, hold short, all
yeah,
that.
Blaze 4-5 to tower. And I don't remember it now. I mean, that was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's one of those of you're learning all the lingo. I
Yeah.
still have the book for the airport of learning where all the stops are.
Yeah.
The Sierra runway west. Like I'm trying to pull that out of my tail right now, but I could spit out. Here's how I want to go from here to there.
That's funny.
And read them back. Stop short of 3-6 center.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you guys talk about when you were not, like when you're off, not like around the kitchen table? What was the station conversation like?
It could be anything. What's funny is Captain Tinsley was my first captain. I was assigned to another one, but he was the like station leader. And his thing was, you don't talk about religion or politics at the kitchen table. You don't.
Do whatever else you want to talk about.
Don't care anything else. It's open.
Yeah.
Those two, you don't talk about it. And to this day, that's what I carry as a captain. You do not talk about politics. You know, talk about religion at the fire station. That's how fights happen. And someone end up with a bloody nose.
Yeah.
With paperwork being done.
Yeah.
So it's one of those of he started with that, and it's been that way. You talk about everything.
Did you ever talk business? I mean, I feel like this show is all
Yeah.
about businesses that start
You would be
fire service and then get into business.
You'd be talking about. I mean, that's the big thing. Is you'd be talking about some dude's landscaping business. Man, I broke 3 mowers yesterday, or Billy Bob crashed into this, and you're talking, and it's learning from like every fireman everywhere. It's got some type of sideline business, kind of like the same thing I like the way.
Yeah.
But it's learning from them and seeing of issues they're having. And I'm pulling it back in my head now, going, I'm seeing that. Like I see this guy's. God, he's a terrible, terrible person. I don't need him running this thing. Like you need to go elsewhere. Thank God I haven't had that issue yet, but
yeah, people would bring that up and talk
Yeah.
about their struggles.
Yeah, there's struggles we need to hire. We're hiring, sort of. So, making sure you don't get the wrong person in there, because you're really and truly going to put $10,000 worth of lights in this car, at least on our end, and you may never see this thing again, and somebody's life is on the line
Based
that's
on the work that
driving
you
it.
do. Yeah.
And that you'll never see again. You may see it in passing.
Did you learn any lessons from those guys? Like your crew that were business people as you were kind of 12 years ago, as you're forming your business?
Yes.
Were there things you didn't have to learn because someone told you?
Yes. I mean, they're teaching you to start an LLC and start it here, and don't just go in straight up as Travis Matthews is putting lights in cars. It's one of those of start an LLC, do it right, and do all the backside work before you ever get to the point of selling a light. Yeah. And actually, me and my wife came up with the business and the name sitting on our couch. That's where it came. We're sitting there watching TV, and I was like, I'm tired of going from one fire station to another. Like I'm killing myself. Literally going from this one to that one and turning around and going back to this one again.
So this thing started kind of looking something to go.
Yeah, something different. Something to get away from the politics. I can't quit Charlotte, but something to get away from the politics of every day working in a fire station to I've got to do something different.
So were you working full time before you started the business?
Oh, yes.
So how did that news go over when you told the guys like, hey, I'm going to start getting into this? What did they say?
So, I brought it. What's funny is when I started it, I was on Engine 15 on C shift, and those guys are great. We've all got promoted out of there then, so none of the crew's the same. but it's one of those of we started, and when I started the business, I was like, hey man, I'm going to start this up. And they're like, you're crazy.
Because every fireman does upfits or whatever. Like, okay, fine.
You're just another guy that's doing upfitting just like every other Joe Blow fireman.
Yeah.
And what's funny is they started messing with it, but I had a website. So we still have a website, lightthewayNC.com.
Yep.
And like 3 months in, my views are in the hundreds. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, who would find this thing?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know there's analytics.
Oh,
and I can see where it's coming from.
All my fire stations.
All my fire stations. Yeah, you're pulling up analytics, and it's like all in the city of Charlotte. I'm like, why? Why are they all in the city? Like one of them lives in Conover.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's all over in Conover. And I'm like, why is all this in Conover? Pull it up, and I can narrow it down to pretty close. I mean, I can get within a street or two of where you're at. And I'm going, these guys. So I didn't tell them. I just let them run with it. They thought like I'd feed into it because I'm a child. Just feed. Man, I got a lot of views this week. It's great. So, I mean, it's one of those of just feeding into their shenanigans. Yeah. But they were supportive. They've had me go do stuff on their volunteer fire trucks. I went to Conover and put lights on their trucks and this, that, and the other. It's one of those of you start getting a name for yourself. And really and truly, the website isn't pushing as much stuff for us.
Yeah.
It's word of mouth. The word of mouth is great for what we're doing of, well, he did my truck and well, that looks great. Well, who did that one? And we've gone statewide at this point.
That's
in
cool.
South Carolina, just doing random Joe Blow, finding me on Facebook or word of mouth. Hey, I heard you did so-and-so's car, so-and-so's truck. And that's kind of what it starts. And I try to spend some time at home. That's part of the 48 is home is a big piece. I'm still learning this work-life balance thing.
Yeah, how do you manage the work-life side? I mean, because like if you work 24-hour shifts, it's what, 10 days a month in Charlotte?
10 days a month, yep.
Then you got your volunteer gig.
Yep.
And then you have your upfitting gig.
Right.
And then you're married. You have any kids?
I have 2 kids.
Yes, and you're married and you have 2 kids. Yeah. So there's 300 hours of things you got to fit into a 24-hour day. So how do you manage doing that?
So it's a work in progress.
Well, yeah, as it is for many.
My wife would say it's not working out well, but it's working. It's a work in progress. We're trying to fit it all in. I don't want to. I've kind of made it my thing of we got single shot days. So we have on a day, off a day, on a day, off 2, on a day, off a day, on a day, off 4.
Oh, interesting.
So we have an odd schedule.
Yeah.
Charlotte runs an odd schedule. So in that 2-day block, I would work at the second day at the volunteers or at Light the Way.
Oh, cool.
So and in the 4-day block, I would work the last 3. So like this is day 3 of my 4-day.
Okay.
So when I leave here, I'm going to drive.
So you schedule a day in your 4-day that's like, no, this is my home day.
Yeah, this is my home day. Day 1 is home. I come from work or come from Charlotte to home, and I do nothing. I may send an invoice. I may send something like that. And if people would leave me alone.
But you're not running wires. You're not taking grills.
Nope. Staying at home.
That's cool.
Doing whatever. Probably most of the time on a computer dealing with like the way stuff. Yeah. But
but you're not in the shop.
I'm not in the shop.
Yeah.
So, and then day 2, 3, and 4, I'm in the shop.
And
like this is day 3. I'm literally going to leave from here and after lunch or whatever, I'm going to drive home and my phone's ringing again.
That's all right. Yeah.
I want to go home and go upfit probably till 5 o'clock if I make it home in time. I may spend an hour there and I may go straight home. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like I know my guy's in the shop right now working. He texted me this morning and said, "Hey man, I'll be there at 7."
That's awesome.
So he's got somewhere to be at noon. So he'll quit off at noon and I'll go see what he got done and we'll go from there. And tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, I'll be sitting back in the shop doing it all over again.
What do you struggle with at Light the Way or kind of in balancing the 24 and the 48 or whatever, your 4-day versus your, what is the big struggle there?
The big struggle is always being able to spend time at home, family time. I don't want them to feel like they're getting shorted because they do get the short end of the stick sometimes. I'm only seeing them, I'm gone for 24 hours. The only time they see me is between bath and bedtime on a FaceTime. And that's it. They see me for 20 minutes. And then, hey, Dad, how are you? Hey, fire truck, woo. And most of the time on Engine 12, we're busy. We're the second busiest engine company in the city.
So when you get home, you're tired.
So, I mean, we ran 5,300, 5,400 calls last year.
Holy cow. Dude, that's crazy.
So, I mean, I'm just one of 3 of the busiest company in the city. So, I'm tired when I come home, but they only see me for a little bit, and sometimes that 20 minutes is 5 minutes because the bell hits and Dad's got to go. And
So you're still volunteering at home. So even like if you get an alarm, whatever at home, you're off to the volunteer station.
Yes, and if it's one of those, I kind of pick and choose those. I don't go on the medical call because we have a crew there.
If there's a crew to handle it, then unless
they
call for second duty, right?
And then like if it's one of those of I get the text message on my phone, I'll see it, the pager will be off because I'm not wanting to hear it on my single shot day. But if they get a medical call and 2 minutes later a house fire goes out, I'm going because there's no one else to run it.
Yeah.
They're already down the street handling the call.
Yeah.
So they're on their first one and they're tied up till EMS gets there. So we'll run the second call, and I think last year we had 330 some odd calls that happened that way.
Oh, wow.
There's 2 calls back to back.
Yeah.
And sometimes we pull out the fire station going to the medical and something else comes out.
Then you got to divide.
You got to divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And I mean, I live a mile from the fire station, so
you're close enough.
I'm close.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's another volunteer. It's me, him, and the fire chief all pull up together.
That's awesome.
At night. So if we pull up, if I'm running calls at night, if I'm going to Charlotte, I won't run the calls because I've got to get ready for my full-time gig. They pay the bills. Sorry.
Yeah. Are there any lessons you've learned that are really hard lessons in your business as you've been starting? Kind of within all this balance, I feel like you got a pot that's about to boil, and then you got to have
time is the key. Is I would go out at dark when the shop was beside the house. I could go in at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. I've been doing that before. Going out at 4 and I could get 3 hours of work in before the girls are up. And once my girls are up, I'd get them ready for school, take them to school, come back and go back in the shop.
Yeah.
Well, I'd stand out there all day, and then they'd come. My wife Kristen would go pick them up, and then 5 o'clock comes around, and I would come in, but my mind is out there 100 foot from the house going, what if I do this? So it was never turning off. The biggest thing that helped us was selling that place with the shop beside it and moving it off campus. Of when I leave our Aberdeen place, when I leave my shop in Aberdeen, it's gone. It's cut off. I've got a 20-minute drive to go back to be like, I should have ran that wire over here. And that's not feasible. It's okay, tomorrow morning I'll go look at it.
Yeah.
And heck, I've left home, driven to the shop, worked for 30, 45 minutes, and then went to Charlotte. I've done that before of I need to get this ready for Bradley when he comes in to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Or I need to make sure my computer's here so he can do the next step.
So do y'all have a few employees that are working for you now?
So when I was at home, when the shop was beside my house, I had like my neighbor was helping me.
That's awesome.
But another paramedic, the guy I actually sold the first light to, he works for me too. He works for Stanley County EMS.
Nice.
And he kind of was able to help back and forth. But now that I've moved it to Aberdeen, it's so far away from him.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half drive for him to get there. So it's an hour and a half drive, work 8 hours, an hour and a half home.
That's a long way.
That's a long ways. Long ways for just 8.5 hours.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I did that as when Cameron Fire Department was thing. I'd lived in Charlotte and drove from Charlotte to home, worked 8 hours and drive back.
Yeah.
I'm a dummy. He doesn't have to be. So I got a huge work ethic.
It sounds like you like to hustle, man. It's great.
So,
it's like
growing up on a farm. I grew up on a farm. We didn't know no downtime.
Yeah.
Downtime was midnight. And guess what? Tractors have lights on them, and they work then too. So I've been there. We used to prime tobacco when I was a kid. So,
oh man, that's awesome.
So it was full time. My grandfather worked on the railroad full time, and it was his farm. He worked on the railroad, and he would work at night. So he would work all night long. He'd come in at probably 7 o'clock in the morning, sleep till about 8. He'd get up. We'd prime tobacco all day.
No way.
And then we'd turn around, and then he would literally go in, take a shower, get in his car, go to Raleigh.
Yeah.
And he would drive in the train from Raleigh to Hamlet and back. Get in his car and come home, sleep for 2 hours.
Do it again.
Over and over and over and over and over. So he doesn't sleep, and I got my work ethic from him.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. When he woke up, the tractor was ready to go. Like we were ready to rock. It is time to go. And there's other stuff that I was able to help speed that process up as I got older. I mean, I was driving a tractor at 7.
Do you struggle finding people that can keep up?
Yes.
How do you set their expectation when they start working with you?
I've got to set their expectation elsewhere from mine because not everybody's an idiot like I am and work like that. So kind of go back to the tractor thing. Like when I taught myself to drive a tractor, I'd watch my grandfather drive it 100 times. I'll never forget Nanny. She was very pissed when I drove the first time because I found the tractor. We were short that day. Somebody was sick. My great grandmother was sick or something. So I found the tractor beside the field and I went, I've seen him do this 100 times. I know how to do this. I couldn't even reach the clutch pedal. I just held the starter till it jumped and drove to the end of the field. And what's funny is I got out at the end of the field the same time as my grandfather was coming out with the tobacco primer. And he gets out and he goes, okay. So he hooked the trailer up and put it in gear and sent me on my way.
That's awesome.
And here I pull up at the barn, like, look what I've done. And my grandmother loses her mind. How dare you? I'm 7 years old.
That's awesome.
And she come back out there and she's yelling at my grandfather. And they're like, he's like, why? Why are you upset at me? He drove it out here. If he drove it out here, he can drive it back. Yeah. And she went, well, yeah, he's 7. And that was it. That was the start. So I couldn't even push the clutch in. I had to cut it off, change gears. Stand on the clutch, crank it, and then jump up on the seat.
Dump it and sit
back. So it was bad. But so the work ethic is there, and I can't put my work ethic. Some people's are not going to be as high as mine.
Yeah.
And I don't expect it to be. I expect it to be high, but it doesn't have to be as high as mine because two things. It's not their company. Yes, they have buy-in, but it's not theirs. Like, this is my baby.
Yeah.
It's not their baby. They're just having to work here.
Yeah.
And like Bradley's taken full in. Yes, he works another job. He works somewhere else full time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he doesn't have to come work for me for 4 hours today.
Yeah.
He could literally sit at home and do nothing, just like every other 22-year-old.
Yeah.
But no, he's going out and he's busting his tail and coming into work for 4 hours and then going to his full-time gig. And then, like, I know he can work 4 hours on Wednesday and he can work a full day on Monday and a full day on Friday. Tuesdays and Thursdays are trash. That's his full-time 8 to like 9 at night. He works at the bowling alley. He's the maintenance guy. So
that's awesome.
So that's his kind of thing. Is he's got this weird schedule that falls along.
Yeah.
And like I can't expect him to be there on a Saturday. And like the weekends are mine. That's what I've always said. The weekends are mine. The kids are at home. Wife's at home. So those are my time with the family. But sometimes I got to get trucks out the door, and it sucks. But I've got to go build fire trucks.
What does a future state of your business look like? If you could paint the picture of where you want to be, even if it's not on the path, but like, where do you really want to be going with this thing?
So that's funny you asked that. Me and Kristen actually talked about that last night. What is your end game? I don't know what my end game is. I really don't have one. It's when I started out, it was just the off-road LED bars that everybody and their brother hates. But then it went from that to emergency vehicles. And I used to put lights in my truck and everybody else's truck. Why don't I do this? So it's expanded from 6 years ago from this little tiny infancy to what it is today. And like, we're looking at expanding. I'm looking at hiring more people. I've got so many bids in now. The problem is I think I got 8 cars that are pending. So I've got the stuff for like 5 of them sitting in the shop, taking up space that I can't put a vehicle in because I don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
But even if I had the space for it, I don't have the personnel to put on it to actually physically get it out in time.
Do you envision having like a bunch of bays with a bunch of installers? Or
I'd love to have
staying in it like yourself.
So, yes, I'd love to stay in it myself. I'd love to turn the wrenches part. The business side, you can have that mess.
That's funny.
Taxes and bane of my existence.
Yeah.
But what's funny is I say that, and my wife's like, "This is the worst thing I've ever done," because it is. It's just terrible. The business side of it. If I could just upfit vehicles,
so you love being
paid,
in the shop, actually working on the cars.
If I could turn wrenches every day, I'd be good. But jamming the music, turning wrenches all day, yeah, absolutely. But the business side of it, the actual sitting at a computer typing, no, I got 0 figs. No, I want to do that. So it's one of those. It's a learning curve. But yeah, I'd love to envision to see it. I had a 30 by 50 shop. I'd love to, and we were growing out of it. I went from a 30 by 50 beside the house to a 25 by 30. So I went half the size. So now I'm either going to have to go, I know a 30 by 50 will work, but I know that I'm going to outgrow it immediately. As soon as I go in, I'm too big.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at a bigger space. And then it's, where in Moore County is there a bigger space to put this thing that's not astronomically priced?
Yeah.
Because like Charlotte, I can find a space. They're in abundance. I could find a place, Mooresville, any place like that. They're everywhere. Go on Facebook Marketplace. There's 100 of them.
Yeah.
But they're not there in Moore County. And I don't want to be so far from home that I'm having to drive an hour to get there. Like I could go to Albemarle, which would help one guy, but it hurts me. I don't want to drive an hour to work on a car and then drive an hour home. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Not when I can do it for 20 minutes down the road. If I could find a space or a commercial space and build it, that'd be great. But just today, I just can't find a space to fit for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the growing pain stage of I've got to get bigger, but do I have the money, financial means, and enough money, income coming in to actually bring a paycheck home, which I haven't.
Yeah, that's the question. Like, do you want to leave the fire department one day and do this full time, or is the fire department where you love? That's your heart hangs there and your rest hangs somewhere else.
So yeah, the heart's in the fire service. I'm never going to leave Charlotte. I'm not leaving. Two things: the pay's too good, benefits are too good. I'd be stupid to leave. That'd be stupid. That'd be the worst decision ever. Now, retiring, however long I've got left, 19 years, I think, something like that. That gets my little one out of high school. Great, but that's 19 years from now.
Yeah,
I can't stay in my little 30 by 25 shop for 30 years or 19 years. There's no way.
Yeah.
We're growing too big. Like, I want to bid for, I know of at least 3 of 10 vehicles. I don't have a place for them to go.
Yeah, that's interesting that the physical space can be such a barrier, and that the work is so good at the city. It sounds like that's what really fills your bucket. Like,
yes,
that if you're working on that busy, going from the airport station to Engine 12, being one of the busiest stations in the city, I feel like it just sounds like that really ticks the boxes for what gets you excited and where you want to be.
I'd much rather be running calls today. The worst place you can be is in a fire station with time on your hands.
Yeah.
Because you got nothing else to do with your time. So I went from Engine 15 as a firefighter to one of the busiest top 3 fire stations in the city, getting promoted to captain, and now going from being a relief captain to having an assigned company to Engine 12. And I'm not leaving. I'd be stupid to go anywhere.
What was the best day, like in your fire service career? What was your best day?
There's been a lot. There's been some cruddy ones, but there's been a lot. Probably, I don't know if it's promotion. It's hard to rank them. You got me there. Probably either promotional when I promoted to captain, because what's funny is I never even went to my promotional ceremony. I wasn't even there. My daughter was born the day before.
Oh, wow.
So my daughter was born the first. I was promoted the second. So
the
Chiefs interview, the whole 9, you're supposed to go up there and, hey, how are you doing? That never happened.
Then you tell them, like, guys, I literally just had a baby.
Yeah.
I'm with her.
My captain called him at the time, was like, he's not coming. They're like, oh, yeah, he's got to. And he's like, no.
Then the guys had your back.
Yeah, they're not coming. So, I mean, but Iris was in the hospital. We were in there for a week. So we were still in the hospital when all of that happened. So it's one of those things of, I'm not going to come in today.
Yeah.
Today's not the day for me to come in and try to play your game of, hey, how are you doing? This is what I expect of you. And in the end, I had that conversation. But the day it was supposed to happen, didn't happen.
Do you get the same thrills in your business that you do in the fire service?
Yes, they're a little different here or there. There's not the big adrenaline rush of you get hit for a house fire and you turn the corner on South Boulevard and there's a column of smoke. You're like, that is burning. You don't have none of that and sitting in there going, hey, boys, it's rocking. Like, you better get dressed.
Yeah.
But seeing a truck, seeing people's faces when they show up, they literally handed me a Tahoe, and a month from now, they get this Tahoe back, and it's everything they envisioned they wanted it to be. And if it's not, I'm going to make it whatever they wanted it to be. It's amazing to see them be happy with it, and then talking with them later and going through hiccups here or there, because hiccups happen. Of, hey, I've had this thing for a year, now this is rattling or this is loose or stuff happens. And it's going back and say, are you still happy with the end product? And, oh, yeah, we love it. And I actually did a sheriff's department car. I did 2 of them, actually. And one was half done by their upfitter. He retired in the middle of an upfit.
Oh.
Like, yes.
Unique timeline.
Yeah, great. Phenomenal. So here I am walking halfway in the middle of something going, I don't know where any of this stuff runs. I don't know where this goes. I don't know nothing. Here's a truck, here's a light bar on top, and a console. And it doesn't cut off, ever. Like, the radio stays on all the time, so it has no timer in it. Like, he didn't put a timer in it. So I went and put a Blue Seas automatic timer disconnect in it. That was step 1. Finish the upfit out to where it all cuts off as it's supposed to. And then the very next truck is its twin. So we took its twin, built it all the way out, and then a week later I get a phone call like, "Hey man, we need to talk." I said, "Okay." So I go back to Sheriff's Department. I was like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "What did you do different in this one, and how do we put it in the rest?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And we took the console apart, and you can tell where all the wires are ran. I know where every wire is. I know where every wire goes, and it's all together. They're all together. They're zip tied together. They're neat and clean. You don't open it up and go, nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
And they have some of those. You'll open the console up, and I'm going,
I'm going to put this back together, and I'm going to send this car as far away from me as I can.
yeah, you're looking at it going, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I had one the other day. It showed up, and they're like, half the light bar doesn't light up.
Yeah.
What do you mean half the light bar? Like, either it runs or it doesn't. It's not half. You don't
wire half of it together.
You don't put half and half. It was half the light bar. Turn it on, the passenger side lit up. Okay, half the light bar works. Why does the other half not work? Test it. I don't have the voltage. Test it all the way back to battery. I got voltage.
So
what it is, I'm chasing his mess down, and it was a bad. We don't crimp anything. We don't use any butt connectors. That's our little thing.
Was it solder, heat shrink, everything?
We solder, heat shrink, everything. So if we do it, any build, unless I have to put a connector on it to plug it in, it gets soldered and it gets heat shrinked in marine heat shrink.
Yeah.
So I don't even use the non-glue heat shrink.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me just to buy it, spend extra money, and be done with it. So we put it. I took it apart, soldered it all back together. It's magical. The whole light bar lights up. And they're like, "How'd you do that?" And I went,
I did the job properly.
just did what I was supposed to do. I mean, what else do you want from me? And it's little things. I've got to go back now and looking at cars he's done before. Now they're melting wires and they don't know why. I was like, well, I can narrow it down.
Yeah.
It's probably what's inside of that console. But
yeah,
it's figuring out, and it's always a learning curve of figuring out what you've got to do for the customer to make them happy.
What would you tell a firefighter or other public servants at fire, police, EMS, whatever, that's considering making the shift to the business world or adding or starting or getting into their side hustle or growing it? What would you tell them that you've learned that's valuable for them to know?
Sit down with multiple people. Like, sit down with multiple people that have a successful business that you've seen successful. Yours, for example. It's just be able to sit down and be like, all right, doing this, just what did you do that got you to here, and what were your struggles? What were the hard times for you? Was it having to put a building in? Well, I put a building beside my house because it was easy, but I needed a building because it was in my garage, and now I went from a garage space with 2 cars in it that my wife used to be able to park in with a baby to I got 3 fire trucks in there, or I got 2 fire trucks and 3 sitting out beside the yard, and she's like, you got to do something.
Yeah.
To learning all the curves of what it is, and every business is different. If you're on a lawn care business, you could give 0 figs about my 30 by 50 building, and you don't need that space, or maybe you do. Maybe you want it all inside. So it's talk with varying business owners to learn what their issues are, what they've found out by trial and error, and oops, and I really screwed that one up, and this almost shut us down. I mean, I have those. The third bid I ever did about shut Light the Way down.
What happened?
He didn't pay. He wanted this guy wanted a net 30. And me and my wife talked about it. She's like, yeah, we'll do it. He never paid. $3,700 in lights.
No way.
6 months into a business about shut us down.
Holy cow.
So,
do your due diligence, make sure someone's credible before
right.
you
If you're going to do that, I mean, it's one thing to have terms to Moore County Sheriff's Department, like, okay, I know where their building is. Yeah. I have a paper that's got you. Like, this dude was in New York, and it was a learning curve. And I got videos of his car running. And hey, here's your lights, man. It'd be great to get paid. Still hasn't paid. That was
to this day.
To this day.
No way.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm like, whatever. I harassed him for a little while on Facebook. It's like he wrecked his car, something was broken in front. I went, if you'd have paid your upfitter or the guy you bought it from, he'd probably fix it for you. Send.
That's crazy, yeah.
Because I'm petty.
Yeah. I just can't imagine, like, you know, and I guess as you start a business, you wouldn't think about, like, I can think of, it was actually funny, we had one business in North Carolina that didn't pay us. This is 12, 15 years ago, and it was like $10,000 or something like that. And I remember similarly, like, we gave the guy terms. I'm like, okay, I guess, sure, you know.
Sure, here you go.
And then They installed it was on a fire truck. Fire truck got refit. Someone actually might have been in your area. It wasn't you, of course, but it was a company in that area. They installed lights in this truck. They didn't pay us the bill. They had factored, I think, the receivable. So like we gave them terms. Someone else didn't give them terms. So they used the money the customer paid them up front to buy the stuff from the other company, and then the order got canceled. So they had the gear. They had no money. We'd sold them lights. They put them on the truck. We knew where the truck was. So I went down. What am I going to repossess lights off a fire truck?
Right.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So that's the only other
their
way
fault.
faster to go out of business is to be on the news repossessing lights off a fire truck.
Right.
Just do something else. So it's tough because like when you think I want any business that could come in my door as good business, well, maybe not so much. There
Right.
might be business that comes in the door that's not great business.
Right.
You know?
I mean, because the dude with the lights on the fire truck, he didn't do that.
Yeah.
He paid for them. He's paid for his lights.
Yeah.
And I mean, we haven't done that. We've heard horror stories of
it's crazy.
Joe Blow Company has put lights in my truck, and now we're hearing that we've paid for them, but we're hearing
But they haven't paid, and then
they
the
haven't
customer's
paid.
like, "Well, I paid for these. These are my
paid for
lights.
these.
I bought
Yeah.
them."
Yeah, I bought these things, and here they are in my fire truck. So you have a great day. There's the door.
Yeah.
And I've heard of that. I've seen it, and going, wow, that's
Yeah,
terrible.
it's tough.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Well, Travis, I want to let our viewers know, number one, how can they get a hold of you if they want to learn more about your business or chat tech or get their vehicle upfit? Where will they find you online?
So all the socials are at Light the Way NC. So the Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I've started one of those.
Nice.
It's all of it's Light the Way NC because I'm a dumb fireman and I got to make things easy.
Simple.
The same way on our Facebook or our webpage, it's lightthewayNC.com. So that's Light the Way and then NC like North Carolina.com.
Perfect.
Our email address, it's sales@lighttheway. I mean, I'm telling you, we're simple. We're simple
great.
folk down here. So it's one of those that reach me that way. You'll be able to get me that way. I don't really want to give my phone number out because you'll be calling me all the time.
Totally
That'd be
fine.
Terrible.
Well, Travis, we really appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for talking with us about your time in the fire service, your time starting this business, and the way you serve others around your area with lighting tech.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Catch you later.
Yes, sir.